No one can silence me. A millionaire's shocking revelation exposed by his amazing housekeeper. Maria stood in the ornate hallway of the Thompson mansion, her heart pounding like a drum, the glitzy world of the wealthy swirling around her. Bill Thompson, the million-dollar smile of their suburban town, was about to face a truth he never expected. She clenched the stack of papers tightly in her hand, the weight of years of loyalty pressing down hard. Today, she wouldn't be silent. While she dusted the grand chandelier and polished the marble floors, whispers floated through her mind. All her life, she had sacrificed for her family, her immigrant parents relying on her humble paycheck to fill their empty plates and her younger siblings looking to her for guidance. Yet every sacrifice seemed small compared to the revelation that now loomed like a dark cloud. Bill, the man she respected, the man she believed cared about the little people, had built his empire on the backs of the struggling families in her community. Her hands trembled as she read the neglected file in Bill's study the day before. Documents outlined unethical business practices, exploiting low-income neighborhoods to expand his wealth. Families like hers suffered for his profit. Hot tears pricked her eyes at the thought, and she felt the world around her begin to spin. The townspeople were bustling with excitement about the charity gala tonight, their eager chatter about helping local schools dissolving into garbled noise in her ears. Could they really know the truth, or were they all just part of this grand illusion? As she listened to the neighbors, busy planning for the event, her mind raced with conflicting thoughts. Bill's charm was a masterful cover. Tonight, he would flaunt his wealth, basking in the admiration, while families like hers struggled to survive. The weight of her discovery pressed heavily on her heart, and she felt a fire igniting within her, a fire for justice, for her community, for her family. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As Maria entered the gala, the contrast was stark. The mansion sparkled with an elegance she'd never known, and guests laughed, oblivious to the darkness hidden beneath the surface. The laughter felt hollow now, a false veneer over the harsh realities they ignored. She felt every heartbeat in her chest as she stood in the shadows, eavesdropping on conversations that buzzed around her. Bill took the stage, delivering his speech, the very image of the philanthropic leader, full of hope and charity. But as he spoke of poverty and education, something snapped inside Maria. In that moment, the enormity of her decision wove itself into her being. She stepped out from the shadows, her voice echoing through the hall, "No one can silence me." The crowd fell silent, the air thick with disbelief. All eyes turned to her, the housekeeper, who had dared to stand against the polished figure steering their dreams. Bill met her gaze, the control he wielded threatening to slip away. In that charged silence, Maria planted her feet firmly on the ground, ready to expose the truth they all feared to acknowledge. What would this bold revelation mean for her family? Would her community rally around her or turn their backs? With every eye in the room upon her, the fragile balance of trust and deception teetered dangerously, leaving questions hanging in the air. The night had just begun, and everything was about to change. The room was still as Maria stood there, heart racing, adrenaline coursing through her veins like wildfire. Every gaze felt like a spotlight, piercing through the immaculate decor and laying bare the emotions swirling inside her. She was terrified, but beneath the fear was a fierce determination. She wouldn't let this moment pass. She had waited too long. Bill Thompson's mask of confidence slipped just barely. The facade of the charming philanthropist faltered as he stepped down from the podium, his expression shifting from surprise to confusion, and then to a dark shade of anger. "Maria," he said, his voice strained, the smooth tone now jagged, "you shouldn't be here." But his words only fueled her resolve. "I should have spoken up long before this," she replied, her voice gaining strength. cutting through the tension like a knife. Do you care to explain how you build your wealth while families like mine suffer? A ripple of gasps traveled through the audience, as if a thunderstorm had suddenly cracked the calm night. Eyes darted around, whispers erupted, and she could feel the dagger of doubt cutting into Bill's carefully crafted image. Misinformation, he snapped, trying to regain control over the narrative. But Maria saw the crack in his armor, a hint of fear. It was intoxicating. She took a step forward. I've read the files. You robbed our community to line your pockets, all under the guise of charity. The murmurs among the crowd intensified. Faces turned toward each other, some in shock, others with pity. He's not what he seems, someone muttered in the background. Maria's heart soared. Perhaps the truth could set them all free. Bill's composure crumbled a bit more. You're just a housekeeper, Maria. What do you know about business practices? He threw her a condescending grin, but his eyes betrayed him he was losing them. With her chin held high, Maria defended her worth. I may clean your mansion, but I also clean up the messes you make in our lives. You ignore the people who work for you. You have built your empire on the backs of hard-working families like mine, and I will not sit by and let this continue. Every phrase echoed her truth. Every word lifted the weight she carried for years. The crowd began to murmur affirmations, emboldening her further. Why should we trust you? Another voice rose. It was Sarah, one of the gala planners, a woman who had always been friendly, who oozed privilege. Maria turned to her, surprised but ready. Because I'm one of you, Sarah, it's time for all of us to face the truth. We stand together or we fall apart. The audience shifted on their feet. Maria could feel their collective anticipation, their hunger for authenticity. Bill, realizing the tide was turning, rushed back on stage, trying to claw back control. Do not listen to her. She's just trying to ruin this night. The desperation in his voice only fueled the response from the crowd. Enough. Maria's voice crescendoed, silencing the room. Look around you. How many of us are suffering while he drains the life from our community? Tonight is not just about charity. It's about accountability. With the eyes of the wealthy and powerful upon her, Maria felt both terrified and empowered. The room brimming with privilege began to shift. Their loyalty was no longer automatic. Doubt now hung like a heavy fog as the reality of their hero became murky. Would they rally behind her? Would they confront the lies they had embraced? As she stood solid, heart in throat, Maria knew the path ahead was treacherous. Bill was still a formidable foe, and the stakes were higher than she had ever imagined. Desperate to contain the fallout, he would fight back hard. Let us see just how far this truth-telling goes, he said, an icy glare fixed on Maria, igniting a new wave of uncertainty within her. With her family's future teetering on a precipice, she felt the ground shake beneath her feet. Had she unleashed something irreversible? In that moment of truth, Maria asked herself one final question. What was she truly willing to risk for her community and for herself? The silence hung thick in the air, reverberating with Maria's last question. All eyes were on her, a fragile equilibrium balancing on the edge of chaos. She could feel the weight of the crowd's gaze, a mixture of horror and anticipation. What would happen next? Maria's heart pounded, the sound echoing in her ears like a drum urging her to push further, to dig deeper. She turned back to Bill, who now stood rigid, his confident demeanor faltering under her relentless glare. The night felt electric, crackling with the potential for change. Maria, he sneered, his facade resuming its hold, you think you can just walk in here and dismantle everything I've built? His voice was low, the threat lurking beneath the surface palpable. I am not here to dismantle, she pressed. I'm here to build something real, something honest. Each word dripped with her truth, resonating with the tension that had settled between them. While you profit from our struggles, I'm fighting for my community. Beneath the polished surface of the gala, a divide grew richer than any champagne flutes clinking or the scent of gourmet food wafting. Slowly, heads began to nod. Whispers spread like wildfire. She's right, how could we not see it? Bill's expression darkened, a chasm of anger and disbelief flooding his features. You know nothing about the sacrifices I've made. His voice rose, desperate. It was an instinctual response to a threat, Yet Maria sensed the cracks growing wider. Sacrifices? She repeated, incredulous. You call robbing our community sacrifices? You call wielding your power over the small and powerless sacrifices? You don't know what sacrifice is, Bill. The real sacrifice is made by those who have nothing left to give. The crowd shifted, their allegiance swaying like a pendulum. Maria felt the warmth of support radiating back to her, filling her with a courage she didn't know she possessed. The murmurs grew louder, voices mingling, sharing their truth at last. Maybe we've been blind, one gentleman mumbled as he stepped forward, a face Maria recognized as one of Bill's biggest supporters. I was just following, trusting, another added, his brow furrowed with regret. Bill, feeling the tide turn, glared at Maria with thunder in his eyes. You're a fraud. You're using their sympathy against me to gain some twisted sense of relevance. His desperation turned palpable, and the audience recoiled slightly. Am I using their sympathy? She challenged, stepping closer. Or am I awakening their hearts? You've built walls of greed around yourself, but I'm tearing them down brick by brick. With each word, the energy in the room swelled. Maria's voice crescendoed, intertwining her rage with her undeniable truth. We're here to fight for what matters. Our families. Our future. Bill's expression began to morph, losing its bluster. Shadows of uncertainty danced behind his eyes as he realized he had underestimated not just Maria, but an entire community that had borne the brunt of his war on justice. But just as Maria felt they were reaching a tipping point, a loud crash echoed from the back of the room. The doors flew open, and a throng of reporters rushed in, the flash of cameras capturing their unveiling moment. What is happening? One shouted, clearly bewildered. A voice behind the crowd yelled, Is this the housekeeper who exposed Bill Thompson? The unexpected intruders turned the atmosphere electric with tension. Maria's heart raced faster. Would the attention energize her further? Or would it give Bill the chance he needed to regroup? Together, we can change everything. Maria shouted to the audience, but the arrival of the cameras shifted the stakes. Uncertainty bubbled up around her. Could she hold on to this fragile newfound power with all eyes now on her? As flashes lit up the ballroom, one last thought flickered in her mind. Would her voice be strong enough to break the silence that had held her back for too long? As the blinding flashes of cameras illuminated the room, Maria's heart raced with a mix of terror and exhilaration. People gasped, their expressions shifting from shock to intrigue as the reporters began shouting questions. In that moment, the spotlight pivoted away from Bill, working its way towards her, and Maria felt the solid ground from under her feet. It was now or never. Maria, why did you come forward? A reporter yelled, shoving a microphone in her direction. The cacophony of voices surrounded her, jarring yet exhilarating. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against Bill's fuming gaze. I came forward to stand for those who can't. She shouted, surprising even herself at the volume. I'm not just fighting for my community. I'm here to say enough is enough. We deserve honesty. We deserve trust. Not this. She gestured at Bill, whose face twisted with rage and disbelief. Maria, do you have proof of the allegations against Bill Thompson? Another voice called. The question hung in the air. Did she? Her mind raced, scrambling to remember the details she'd gathered during her relentless pursuit of the truth. She thought of the documents hidden away in her home, the whispers of corruption, and the fear that had kept so many silent. A fire ignited within her. Yes, I do. The declaration fell from her lips, bold and unyielding. Bill opened his mouth to retaliate, but the crowd wouldn't let him speak. The tensions rattled in the space, making those who once supported him shift. They could feel it too, the power Maria wielded now. With the cameras rolling, Maria continued, for too long, people like Bill have exploited the trust of hardworking families. We stand here united to demand accountability. The heat of her words wrapped around her, emboldening her further. The crowd erupted into applause, and the sound of clapping filled her with adrenaline. She could see faces that echoed her own feelings of anger and betrayal, the same determination sparking in their eyes. Bill's self-assured veneer cracked a little more. You think these reporters will believe your lies? You're just a housekeeper trying to make a name for yourself. His voice trembled, but his eyes bore the heavy weight of defeat. Housekeeper? Yes, but I am also a neighbor, a friend, and a voice for the voiceless. You think I don't count? She shot back. I refuse to be made small anymore. At that moment, Maria saw the shift, and not just in the audience's mood, but in Bill's posture. He shifted uncomfortably, glancing at the reporters closing in on him, capturing his every move. The veneer of power began to unravel, laying bare the desperation beneath. The room erupted with renewed shouts of support, the crowd echoing her message back to her. She's right. We support you, Maria. And it filled her with a resolve she'd never had before, each shout a pulse of strength at her back. But as the commotion swelled, Maria noticed something in the corner. One of the other reporters, a woman with serious eyes, was pulling aside a young man. He looked nervous, holding papers tightly against his chest. What is he about to say? The question nagged at her, diverting her attention. Maria. The reporter called out once more. Does this mean you'll take action against Bill? Do you have the evidence? Wait. Maria yelled, turning toward the commotion. What is happening with him? The young man shifted, sweat glistening on his forehead, looking as if he was about to reveal everything or something that could change everything. And just when Maria thought she could take the next step forward, the crowd surged towards him, hungry for truth, and all eyes pivoted to his uncertain face. Is he a whistleblower? She wondered, heart pounding in her chest. With the future of her community hanging by a thread, Maria felt the stakes unique and daunting. If he had what she thought he had, it could change the tide of everything. But would it be too late for her to take control of her own destiny? The murmurs in the crowd grew louder, tension crackling like static in the air. Maria's gaze was locked on the young man, whose anxious eyes darted around the room as if searching for a lifeline. She could see his hands trembling, papers clenched tightly in them. What was he holding? Some kind of evidence? Her heart raced, matching the pulse of the crowd as they leaned in closer, eager for answers. Please, she chanted internally, willing him to speak. The buzz of reporters swirled around. Every heart in the room seemed to hold its breath. The nervous energy wrapped around her like a blanket, suffocating yet charged with anticipation. It was a moment suspended in time, the before, the uncertainty of what was to come. Just say something, Maria thought, desperation bubbling within her. She stepped forward, ready to bridge the gap between fear and truth. What do you know? She called out, her voice cutting through the chaos. The young man's eyes widened, and suddenly, all eyes were on him. The questions rained down heavier than ever, each reporter anticipating a monumental revelation. Maria watched as he glanced at Bill, whose face was now a mask of frustration and panic. The power shift was palpable. Finally, with a shaky breath, the young man broke his silence. I've seen things that could change everything between Bill Thompson and all of us. His voice cracked but held a fierce determination. For months, I worked at the Thompson estate. The crowd gasped collectively, and Maria surged forward, feeling buoyed by his courage. What did you see? She pressed, her heart hammering against her ribcage. There are records, charts of transactions, money going to places it shouldn't. I found them in a drawer one day. I thought I'd be next. His voice faltered as he scanned the crowd, the weight of truth heavy on his shoulders. Let us see it. A woman shouted from somewhere deep within the crowd, fueled by a mix of hope and defiance. Yes, we need proof. Another echoed. Maria could see fear in his eyes, but also a hint of empowerment. Perhaps his story was the catalyst they needed. Please, she urged softly, you can do this. We're behind you. With renewed resolve, the young man raised the papers above his head, trembling but resolute. I was scared to reveal all this because Bill, he has connections, power. But more than his money, he has manipulated the truth, and I won't stand by anymore. I refuse to be silenced. The crowd erupted, and Maria felt a tide of emotions wash over her. She was no longer just a housekeeper. She was at the helm of a movement, a wave of voices clamoring for justice. An innate strength surged through her, buoyed by the realization that she wasn't alone. The community was with her, demanding change, requiring honesty, and then Bill snapped. His face flushed with rage, a sharp contrast to the cool facade he had maintained. "This is all a lie. I will have you all for defamation." He spat, fury radiating from every corner of his being. But the crowd only grew louder. "No, we won't let you intimidate us anymore." Maria turned back to the young man, desperation etched in her features. "We need to see those documents. We can't let him escape this. Will you show us?" He hesitated, glancing down at the stack of papers, uncertainty clouding his face. The risk was immense, the potential consequences daunting. I will," he finally said, conviction slowly stealing itself in his tone. "Okay," Maria breathed, feeling the weight of 1,000 hearts beating with hope beside her. In that instant, as he began to unfold the first paper, Maria knew they were teetering on the edge of something monumental. A turning point that could either light the path to their liberation or plunge them back into darkness. The room quieted as anticipation built and the air thickened. What would these documents reveal? Would they be enough to hold Bill accountable, or was it just the beginning of an even bigger battle? As Maria clutched her own crumpled resolve tightly, she wondered if this young man's bravery would lead them into triumph or despair. What lay ahead could shape their lives forever. As the first sheet of paper slipped from the young man's fingers, a hush fell upon the room, like a tightrope walker pausing mid-step. Maria's heart raced as she leaned in closer, straining to catch a glimpse of the words that could reshape their reality. He unfolded the document slowly, the creases revealing a meticulously typed ledger. Numbers and names danced across the page, but it was the highlighted entries that screamed for attention. Maria glanced around at the crowd, their faces a mix of disbelief and anticipation. "What is that?" A voice emerged, breaking the silence. It was an older man, his brow furrowed. Everyone seemed to echo his thought, the air thick with suspense. "Transactions," the young man stammered, his voice trembling, but defiantly loud enough. "From the Thompson estate. Money that went to shell companies, things that don't even exist." He took a deep breath. "This isn't just bookkeeping. This is money laundering." Gasps erupted and the tension shifted, transforming into fuel that ignited the crowd. Maria saw eyes widening, expressions shifting from disbelief to a fierce determination. It was as if each person was awakening to a new reality, a coalition of ordinary lives against the weight of corruption. "Show us more," someone shouted, nearly standing on their tiptoes to see better. He flipped to the next page, revealing what looked like correspondence between Bill and various entities' accounts that thrived in the shadows. "I started looking out of curiosity. I thought I would find some mishaps with the estate. A mistake, you know? But I stumbled onto this," he continued, his voice growing steadier with every word. "Billing address, strange transactions. Many of these names are familiar to employees of the estate. Bill's going to tear this apart." A woman murmured, her voice breaking slightly as they looked at one another. "No," Maria found herself saying, the words flowing out of her like an urgent prayer. "Not anymore. He won't. Not if we stand together." The young man nodded, finding strength in her words. "If we can expose this, we could bring him down. But I need your help. It can't rest on my shoulders alone." Maria reached out, gripping the young man's arm as she flashed a smile filled with warmth and empowerment. "We're with you. This is our community, and we won't let ourselves be pushed back into silence." The crowd cheered, a wave of voices rising in a choir of unity. "Yes," someone bellowed. "We'll keep this alive. Share this everywhere." Amid the cacophony, Bill stood anchored, rage simmering dangerously within him. "You're all fools," he shouted, struggling to regain control. "You think you can take me down with flimsy papers? You have no idea who you're dealing with." But the crowd's energy was like an electric current, overwhelming. The younger man presenting the papers became their spokesperson, their beacon. "We do know, Bill. We know you're hiding behind this web of lies, and we want to turn back." As the momentum shifted in the gathering, Maria could see the determination glimmer in the eyes surrounding her. People were standing taller, ready to confront the giant before them. It was exhilarating but terrifying. What was going to come next? The young man glanced down, flipping the document over, revealing a list of names connected to Bill's empire. Maria's heart lurched at the implications. This was bigger than she'd ever imagined. As those names sank in, a feeling of dread mingled with hope hung in the air. This was just the beginning, but what awaited them on this new trajectory? Where do we go from here? Maria whispered, knowing she had no idea what they were about to unleash. Would the truth be too much for them to handle? The crowd buzzed around her, filled with anticipation, suddenly restless. They were no longer just witnesses. They were pioneers embarking on a dangerous journey. Would it lead them down a path of liberation or further into darkness? And as the young man prepared to share more, Maria took a deep breath, bracing herself for the storm ahead. What would be unleashed once the truth was fully out? The energy in the room crackled like summer lightning, a mix of fear and adrenaline coursing through Maria's veins. She could see it written on every face, the urge to know, to stand, to fight. The young man, standing resolutely before them, continued to flip through the documents. Each page seemed to strip another layer of secrecy away, revealing the grimy underbelly of corruption that had thrived for too long. These names, he said, pointing at the list, aren't just part of this estate's dealings. They're connected to our lives, to our families. He locked eyes with a woman near the front. These are people who have hurt you, who have made decisions without thinking of us. But we have the chance to fight back. Maria felt the weight of those words settle in her heart. She remembered the struggling single mother down the street, the elderly couple across town being pushed out of their home, the businesses shuttered under Bill's oppressive thumb. This wasn't just about money, it was about their community, their lives. Suddenly, the atmosphere shifted as Bill shoved his hands into his pockets and stepped forward, a sneer cutting across his lips. You want to be heroes? You really think this is enough to take me down? You're out of your depth, he spat, puffing out his chest. I've spun these webs for decades. You think a few papers will bring me down? You've underestimated us, Bill, the young man shot back, his voice unwavering. Every person here matters. We are far stronger than you think. The man's conviction rippled through the crowd. Maria could see that fire igniting in their eyes, a sense of purpose washing over them like a wave. Each individual began to shift a little closer, their solidarity building like a fortress around the brave young man. Let us expose him, someone shouted, fists pumping into the air. The chant began to grow, echoing through the room as more people joined in, voices rising in unison. Expose him. Expose him. Tears pricked Maria's eyes. She felt pride swelling within her. A sense of family formed from this chaotic moment. Standing shoulder to shoulder with her neighbors, she felt invincible. But even against this tide of unity, Maria couldn't shake her growing uncertainty. How far could they go? What risks were they genuinely willing to take? Do we know what consequences follow? She thought, her heart thudding loudly. But there was no backing down now. The dam had broken, the truth was out, and the fight was on. As they continued to chant, the group morphed into a whirlwind of action. Phones were grabbing for social media, hastily typing hashtags, snapping pictures of the documents. It was exhilarating, a whirlwind of information being sorted through, a conversation igniting across the town. In the midst of this, Maria caught a glimpse of a young girl watching from behind the crowd, eyes wide with confusion yet curiosity. It struck her then the future of this community rested on their shoulders. The assault from Bill could not just be for them. It needed to be for everyone. What legacy would they leave behind if they faltered? As whispers of plans began to circulate, leaflet campaigns, strategic meetings, the crowd's energy began to swell even more, taking on a form of its own. They were transforming an impulse into a movement, but uncertainty loomed large. Maria exchanged glances with the young man, an understanding passing between them. The journey was just beginning, and the stakes were higher than they could imagine. Then, before the next rally of voices began, Maria stood tall. But what if we fail? She called out, the honesty spilling from her lips. Silence fell again, the question hanging thick in the air, paving the way for contemplation. The boy standing next to her spoke softly, failing isn't the worst thing that could happen. What's worse is not trying at all. Confidence swelled again in her heart, but could they really unshackle their community from Bill? What was lurking in the shadows ready to retaliate, waiting for them to make that first undeniable move? The young man stood at the center, heart pulsing with the rhythm of hope, ready to bind this tapestry together. As he prepared to rally them once more, the air thickened with anxiety and perhaps fear coupled with determination. Would their bravery be enough to face what lay ahead? With the crowd rallying again, Maria grasped the urgency of their mission. What consequences would they face for unmasking the truth? The air was thick with tension, but it wasn't fear that drove them now. It was an electric charge, a hunger for justice that rushed through their veins like wildfire. Maria's heart raced. If they stood together, could they really do this? Could they take down Bill? The young man stepped forward again, fist raised. We've spent too long living in fear. Bill may have power, but we have something stronger each other. Our stories are interconnected, and we can't allow this injustice to continue. The crowd erupted, the chant growing louder. Together. Together. Each voice was a thread weaving them closer, forming a fabric of resilience. The elderly couple, the young girl with confusion in her eyes, the struggling mother, they were all a part of this, and Maria felt a swell of determination wash over her. We need to be organized, the young man continued, a fire in his eyes. We'll meet tomorrow at the community center. Everyone who's willing to fight back must come. Fists pumped in the air, a simple yet powerful gesture of solidarity. Yes, they would meet. Yes, they would fight back. But even as Maria cheered along with the others, something nagged at her mind. They were fighting against a titan, one who could strike back hard. Then, like a dark cloud overshadowing the bright hopes circulating in the room, a shiver ran down her spine. What if they were not prepared? What if Bill retaliated before they could even get organized? The thought chilled her, and a knot formed in her stomach. As the chants died down, the young man turned to her, sensing her unease. We can do this, Maria. I know it feels scary, but look around. The people here are fighting for something bigger than themselves. Maria nodded, but uncertainty still gnawed at her. What if he fights dirty? She said, her voice barely above a whisper. He has connections. How do we protect ourselves from his power, his influence? His expression turned serious. That's why we need to be smart. We'll gather the evidence we can, every document, every story. We'll inform the media. We can't just act on emotion, we must strategize. The gravity of his words struck her. This wasn't just about passionate protests in a room filled with hope. This was a full-blown battle, and in battles, you could lose everything. The crowd buzzed with ideas, hands raised to share thoughts, but Maria felt detached. She needed clarity. Was they really prepared for what lay ahead? As conversations continued around her, the young girl with wide eyes caught her attention again. She stood alone, listening with rapt attention. Maria's heart softened. This little girl represented everything worth fighting for. It was the youth, the future, who stood to be affected most by their success or failure. All right, Maria finally spoke up again, her voice steadier. Let us do this right. We share our stories, create a plan, and be careful. Together we'll confront Bill, but we need to do it smart. Right? The young man agreed, his conviction shining bright amidst the surrounding dimness. We harness our energy into something tangible. Hope filled the room once more, yet Maria couldn't shake the feeling that danger lurked close by. They might be sparking a fire, but it could easily turn into an inferno. As the meeting began to wind down, people started breaking into small groups. Maria felt a compelling urge to address the girl. She slipped through the crowd, kneeling down beside her. Hey there. Can I ask your name? The girl looked up, startled but intrigued. Anna. Anna, Maria smiled. We're going to change things. You believe in what we're doing? With wide eyes, Anna nodded. Yeah, I want to help. Good, because we need young voices just like yours. But as she reassured Anna, a voice inside her whispered another worry. If Bill had any inkling of their intentions, the fallout could be catastrophic. What lengths would he go to in order to protect his empire? As the night drew deeper, Maria's heart pounded in foreboding anticipation. Whatever was coming next, they were stepping into a path of uncharted territory. An urgent question echoed. In her mind, were they truly ready for the struggles that lay ahead? Maria couldn't sleep that night. The weight of the meeting and the potential danger they were all walking into pulled at her thoughts like a relentless tide. She tossed and turned, images of Bill's smug smile and the power he wielded flashing through her mind. Morning light peeked through her window, illuminating the uneven shadows that seemed to echo her anxiety. When dawn finally broke, she took a deep breath, steeling herself for the day ahead. There was no turning back now. Decisions made last night echoed in her mind. Gather evidence, prepare, stand united. She slipped out of bed, feeling the cool wooden floor beneath her feet anchor her to reality. As Maria moved through her morning routine, she wrote down ideas and notes, jotting down the stories she'd heard from others in the crowd. Each name, each face, felt like a small piece of the larger puzzle. Anna's bright eyes stood out the most. This was more than just a responsibility, it was hope for the future. The community center buzzed with an eager energy as people started to arrive. Maria recognized several faces from last night, some with hushed worries and others bursting with excitement. The young man stood at the front, rallying those who made it early. Maria approached, feeling a sense of camaraderie with everyone in the room. "Thanks for coming," he said, his voice powerful yet warm. "Today marks the start of our plan. We will compile stories and evidence, but we need to act quickly. We can't let Bill get wind of what we're doing." More murmurs of agreement swept through the crowd, a mix of excitement and fear. The air pulsed. Maria raised her hand, catching their attention. "We need to create a safe space for discussion. If we're going to share our stories, we need to trust each other completely." A ripple of nods followed her declaration. "Agreed," the young man replied. "Let us break into groups. Share what you know. If anyone has evidence against Bill, it's time to bring it forward." As people began to gather in small clusters, Maria felt a breath of relief. This was it, they were all committed to the cause. But what would happen if someone in this very room, one of their own, was compromised? In the midst of sharing stories, Maria noticed Anna sitting quietly at a far table. She had sketched a small drawing in her notebook, two people holding hands under a bright sun, surrounded by a field of flowers. Her innocence and hope shone through. "What is that?" Maria asked as she knelt beside her. "It's us, working together. I want to help spread the sunshine," Anna said, her voice earnest. Maria felt a lump in her throat. "You have a beautiful spirit, Anna. You're already making a difference." Just then, a loud crash echoed from the back entrance, followed by shouts. The atmosphere shifted from collaborative to chaotic in an instant. "What is happening?" someone yelled, worry etched on their faces as they turned toward the door. Maria's heart raced. Did someone follow them? Had Bill sent his people? As she pushed through the crowd, a familiar figure burst in: Rebecca, the woman who managed Bill's office, her face pale and panicked. "You need to stop what you're doing," she gasped, breathless. "Bill knows." A gasp spread through the room. The tension hung heavy in the air, a collective realization dawning. They were on the verge of being exposed. "What does he know?" Maria stepped forward, her voice rising above the noise. "Everything. He has eyes everywhere. You have to understand, this isn't just a fight for fairness, it's a fight for survival. If he feels threatened, he won't hesitate to strike back. He clears out anyone who gets in his way." As whispers and murmurs filled the air, Maria glanced at the faces around her. Fear was palpable. What had they ignited? But one thing was clear, they had to keep moving forward with more caution, yes, but also with renewed urgency. "What do we do now?" Anna's small voice cut through the mounting dread. Maria knelt beside her again, feeling the weight of her own fear juxtaposed against the girl's unyielding faith. "We don't back down, Anna. We become smarter. We unite." Bill's wrath loomed larger than ever, and Maria knew they were at a crossroads. Would fear bind them, or would it empower them? The struggle was just beginning. What else did Rebecca know, and how much time did they have before Bill took action? Maria stared at Rebecca, her breath caught in her throat. "What exactly does he know?" In the moments that followed, the room was shrouded in a heavy silence, like a still pond before the storm. Rebecca looked shaken, darting her eyes around as if expecting Bill's minions to burst through the doors at any moment. He knows about last night. He heard the chatter, and he's not taking this lightly. You need to stop before it gets worse. Maria felt the weight of dread harness her heart. The shouts of encouragement and solidarity from just moments ago now turned into whispers of apprehension. Would they really be able to hold their ground against the power Bill wielded? What do you suggest we do? She asked, her voice steady but slathered with concern. I want to help you, Rebecca said, and the sincerity in her eyes caught Maria off guard. I'm not happy with what he's doing either. I just wanted to save you from whatever he's planning next. He's ruthless. It's not just your safety, it's your family's, your livelihood. He's willing to go to extremes. I don't care how far he will go, Maria responded fiercely, head held high. You think we're going to back down now? We felt the pain. We're done being afraid. A passionate roar rippled through the crowd, igniting that brave spirit once more. Maria's heart soared as she saw Anna nodding, fervent belief shining in her wide eyes. The community would not be silenced any longer. Rebecca weighed her words carefully before speaking again. Then, let me be your eyes. I can help you gather more evidence, find others inside Bill's circle who might be willing to stand against him. For a split second, hope flickered in the room. But Maria noticed the faint glimmer of uncertainty lingering in Rebecca's expression. Are you sure you can be trusted? Someone from the back called out, skepticism threaded in their tone. I'm a risk-taker, Rebecca replied, her voice rising to embrace the challenge. I know the stakes. If we don't confront Bill now, things will only get worse for all of you. He won't go easy on anyone. Maria felt a rush of determination surge through her. We pursue the truth and protect each other no matter the risks. Will you stand with us, Rebecca? Will you help us? I will, Rebecca replied, her voice hardening with resolve. But your fight is only just beginning. We'll need to approach this smartly. We can't underestimate his reach. I want to help you find allies within the community, those he's hurt before. Hope enveloped the room as whispers of agreement floated around, and people began to forge connections. The fear began to ebb away, replaced with something more empowering, conviction. Maria locked eyes with the young man who had stood up so bravely the night before, and he nodded back, his determination unwavering. They began to formulate a plan. They would document everything, gather testimonies, and prepare for the storm that was surely about to arrive. As the hours passed, the energy shifted, enveloping them in a strong current. Slowly but surely, they were coming together as one. The crowd felt like a single heartbeat, united in purpose. By the end of the day, Maria took a moment to breathe as she looked around at the faces who rallied beside her. Anna with her innocent dream of a brighter future, Rebecca, the woman who dared to stand defiant against the Titan, and everyone else who had once felt small, but now shone with renewed fire. We are not just taking a stand for ourselves, Maria declared, her voice strong as she voiced the collective spirit in the room. We're taking a stand for our families, for our friends, and for everyone who has felt the consequences of Bill's words and actions. This is our fight. Together, we will not fold. Cheers erupted, ringing through the community center, cascading against the walls like a rallying cry. With every chant, Maria felt her fears subside, replaced by unwavering strength. But even as hope surged, a nagging thought pulsed at the backs of their minds. What would be the cost? It was clear, the battle before them would not be easy. They would face backlash, and Bill's influence was vast, but together they could withstand whatever storm came their way. As they filed out of the community center, pumped and inspired, Maria paused. She glanced back once at the faces, burning with resolve. We're about to change everything, she thought, a little spark igniting in her chest. She felt something shift in the air, a promise of resilience, and the pivotal moment of transformation. Maria vowed to stand beside her community against the opposer who had thrived on their silence. In the following days, they would gather every piece of evidence, rally supporters, write testimonies, and inform journalists. Maria's heart beat with hope, nourished by visions of a better world to break down walls and build brighter paths. And then there was the feeling in the air, a tidal wave of change brewing, aligning fate with determination. With each new conversation and every voice raised, unity flourished. They'd turn the shadows into light, and they would not be silenced anymore. Now was the time to stand tall against the tide, and though pitfalls waited ahead, they would face it together. Common people fighting against injustice. United, they would reclaim their narrative, a new chapter of hope unfolding before them, and as the sun set against the brink of a new dawn, Maria felt a fire ignite within her chest. This would be the moment they had waited for. No one could silence them. If you need to stay updated on this powerful story, you must subscribe immediately to our channel so you won't miss any exclusive developments. Like right now to fuel this movement and let the world know that we stand together for justice. Comment your thoughts on this journey of transformation and how it inspires you. Your voice matters more than ever. Don't wait not even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this fight for change. It's time to rally behind the cause. You need to show your support.